Alright, for those of you that are watching this video, you have either just unlocked Timeskip Hinto, you have already unlocked him but you are looking to get better with him, or you're an intermediate player looking for some more advanced techniques, and finally, you're a professional TSH main. And of course, those that just want to watch my videos, shout out to you guys. But no matter which one you are, I guarantee that there is something in this video that can be learnt by players of all levels. Alright, this TSH guide can be split into 5 parts. The first 5 parts are talking about the movement and also the spiking of Timeskip Hinto. And finally, the last section will cover Timeskip Hinto's serves. Okay, so in phase 1, you just want to learn how to spike with Timeskip Hinto. We just forget about the charge temporarily and we'll only focus on spiking the ball properly. Now, how do we do this? Well, as Timeskip Hinto, we really want to try to hit the ball when it is at max height. For example, something like this. Just before the ball begins to drop down, that is the time that you want to spike the ball. I'll do it again. Just like that. Did you guys see that? Let me zoom out for you. Spiking the ball at the max height. Okay, so what I just shown was no tilt spiking. Now we're going to move on to tilt spiking. So with tilting, there are only a few main combos that you can use with Timeskip Hinto. The first one obviously being a W tilt, where the ball goes straight down. The other combos are followed with WA, just like this, or WD, just like this. Both are combined with W. Next, we will have the S tilt. S tilt looks like this, where the ball goes further back, or you can also combine it with A and D, which would look something like this. SA, SD. Alright, so this is phase 2 of the Timeskip Hinto guide, where I'll cover his movement, how to charge his bar, and also how to maintain his charge. Now, essentially, Timeskip Hinto charges bar when you move in one continuous direction. For example, if I held down W, the charge will go up, just like that. It's really just that simple. Move continuously in one direction will charge your bar. Now, to maintain this charge, you essentially don't want to make any rapid movements in your running. So for example, if I held down W and I just moved like this, A and D, and I did a zigzag, as you guys can see in the bar, it is very hard to get it up to max because you're constantly changing the direction that you're facing or you're running. The best way is to essentially hold down your W key and then move with your camera. This will lessen the amount of like bar dropping, and you can pretty much always maintain it with like very minimal camera movement. So let's move on to the next step. Now, to maintain your charge whilst you spike essentially involves something that is, practiced and learnt over time. You guys will learn this skill as you play more of Timeskip Hinto, and it is essentially jumping really quickly whilst still maintaining this charge. Now, I'll give you guys a demonstration of what that looks like. So I'll run, I'll get the charge, I'll jump like that. And as you guys can see, I didn't lose any charge there. But if I'm a bit too late with my jump, just like this, you can see that this charge is lost quite quickly. Now that is not what you want. You want to be able to get to a speed where you are able to maintain this bar and jump and release. You want to be able to essentially perfectly stop in the air, jump with full charge. That is your ideal situation. Of course, you can always glide if your setter sets to you like that and he goes to a side set, then yes, of course you can glide. But almost in most situations, the best, ideal scenario is you stop perfectly with a full bar, not like that. But as long as it's in the purple, you will still get the effect of Timeskip Hinto's special ability, which is adding more speed, adding more power, and also adding gravity to the ball. Alright, welcome to phase 3 of the Timeskip Hinto guide, where I will cover shift locking and also camera flicking. So essentially what shift locking is changing your character's direction at the very last second. Now I'll show you what this looks like right now. So if I'm walking straight and I suddenly shift lock and I'm facing towards the right. And that is because the shift lock is essentially changing your character's direction to the camera to the direction in which your camera is facing. So as you guys saw just then, my camera was facing to the right, and that's why my character ends up facing to the right after I shift lock like this. Now, what this does is it really misguides, where you're going to spike, and it makes it a lot harder for the opponents to read your spike. So if you were to just run up in a straight line and you spike the ball, the opponents can pretty easily read that and probably receive the ball. However, if you add shift lock into it, it's much harder to receive that spike. And this is a skill, again, that takes practice. Once you play the game long enough, you'll understand that shift locking will become second nature to you. And once you reach that level with Timeskip Hinto, you are pretty much good to go with all kinds of directional change. Now, phase 4 of the guide essentially talks about timing. Now, this can be the timing of your spike and also the timing of your jump. There are two types of kind of spikes and jumps that you can do, one fast and one is slow. So, for example, if I were to demonstrate a fast spike right now, but it's like a really quick spike, and you jump up with the ball, like this, compared to a slower spike, where you sort of delay it, when the ball's up in the air, it comes down, it falls down, and then you spike with the S tilt. Now, that's a timing difference there. As you guys can see, it is slower as you wait for the ball to fall. Now, if you can mix up your timing when you spike, it will be really good to confuse your opponents because they might, have muscle memory that sort of forces them to click when they expect a fast spike compared to when you use a slower spike and hit the ball at a later point in time. And it also happens a lot when you glide with Timeskip Hinto. So for example, they may glide and then wait for the ball to be just above the net over here and then spike the ball. Or sometimes they can glide and hit the ball when it's up in the middle, sort of like curve here, and they hit it right at the top there. So timing changes can be very, very useful. And that is a key thing that you guys should know when you play Timeskip Hinto. Now, what I'm going to talk about is partially. Now, what is partialing? Partialing is essentially moving your camera into another direction as you spike. Now, the best way that I can explain this is again with an example. So this will primarily apply with S tilting. So if you use S tilt, just S alone, or SA, or even SD. So if you used SD, when you spike, you would look to the left. I partial a bit too much there, partial slightly, and it'll hit line. Just like that. There we go, a perfect line just then. And this also works with SA, but instead of looking left, you look to the right. Okay, so that looks something like this. Just like that. You'll pretty much always hit line if you look to the right and use SA tilt. Alright, and for the final part of this guide, I will cover some of my favorite serves to use with Timeskip Hinto. So I've got 5 serves here. You guys can choose whichever one that you feel the most comfortable with, and I'll just show you how to do each serve. For the first serve, I call this the quick spin shift lock serve. So what does that look like? Basically, it looks like this, okay? Just like that. One quick spin, spike, or serve. That's the first one. And the second one is the forward quick. Like that. That one is the forward quick. The third one is the double spin shift lock. And this can be very slow. Like that. The fourth serve is the W plus D jump angle serve. Like that. And then finally, we have the no toss shift lock serve, which looks something like this. Okay, so that was the end of my Timeskip Hinto guide. I really hope you guys learned something and, can be able to use it into your own game. That is really, really awesome if you can. I made this guide hopefully detailed enough for you guys to understand. If you don't understand anything, you can always ask me in the comments and I'll try my best to respond to you all. And that is the end. Thank you for watching.